What's your sugar mama story? I've been working at a restaurant for over a year and a half now, and the same elderly couple comes in at least 3 times per week. They're both probably in their 70s at least. The woman is always in nice fur coats and has different jewelry all the time, but is kind of losing herself to her age. I don't think she has dementia quite yet, but she's not quite all there anymore. The man is constantly leading her around, walking her to their regular booth, helping her order, etc. Found out recently the poor old guy lives in his car. Basically this woman pays for him to have a few meals with her each week in exchange for his companionship. It's kind of like a weird elderly escort deal they've got going on. It's sad, but in a weird way kind of sweet, as I've noticed he gets very protective over her and seems to genuinely care for her. He keeps all of her receipts for her, makes sure she gets exactly what she wants, and always makes sure she gets her 5 scoops of vanilla ice cream for dessert. How the guy survives living mostly in his car in Minnesota winters is probably solely due to help from this woman. TL. Doctor, elderly couple eats together all the time. Lady is rich AF and basically pays for his companionship and company. Met a 30-year-old widow on Xbox when I was 19. She said she played Xbox to pass the day because she was financially set for life when her husband passed and wanted to make some Xbox friends. We start playing more and more until I couldn't keep up because my controller and headset broke. She asked for my address, and after a week, I got a brand new controller and headset. I couldn't thank her enough and asked what I could do in return, to which she replied to just keep playing with her. Over the next few years, she occasionally buys me new games when they came out, and even a few collector's editions if I wanted them. Eventually, we drifted apart because I couldn't find time play with my school and work schedule. I still miss her and occasionally try and find her online again, but can't remember her gamer tag or Facebook. She will always be one of my best gaming buddies I've ever had. In my early 20s I met an older woman around mid 40s in a bar. She was drinking alone, and I stood by her to order a drink. She leaned over and gave me all kinds of compliments about my body. I said thanks, and that she looked great too. She gave me her business card realtor and told me to text her around 2 AM. I did. She rolled up to my place in a super nice Benz. Woke up and she was gone. Next weekend she texted me an address and to be there at 8 PM and to clear my entire weekend for her. I did. She had a really nice 8-bedroom house. She was wild, taught me a thing or two and let me explore all kinds of shit I didn't even know I was interested in. The next weekend, same thing. I showed up and she had so much stuff for me. Really nice high-end clothes and shoes. She also bought all kinds of kinky toys for me to use on her too. She made me into a half-ass dom, and I would tide her up and do just about anything I wanted to. We had a good time. Then she fell off the face of the earth. I don't regret it one bit. She was really nice and spoiled the shit out of me. She made me food and would bring it to me while I was in bed. Massaged my body damn near every day. She would sleep in a different room, and between the sick chill times we would have long lengthy conversations about anything and everything. When I was 19 I dated a 35-year-old lady. She was not super rich herself, but her dad was, and she was very much a daddy's girl. Anyway, her dad was a realtor who made a ton of money by war profiteering. Essentially, rich people sell huge houses at a massive loss in unstable countries when they think conflict is getting too local. Her father would buy the home cheap, and if it survived the war he would turn around and sell them with huge margins after the conflict settled. That was his business. Anyway, he kept up with his rich clients and sold them vacation mansions in the States later on. Rich folk have such money to waste. He then paid his daughter, my girlfriend, $800 a month to check in on the client's mansions once a month or so to make sure the mansion hadn't burned down or something. Keep in mind his clients lived in Dubai/London and never came to their vacation home in the States a single time in 20+ years despite spending all of the money to get them furnished and everything. So me and my girlfriend would go to the mansion and just sleep in the mansion for a while sometimes. I've known other well-off people, but to this day I have not set foot in another home as huge as that ducking mansion. Their master bathroom had a separate room where the entire ceiling would shower water. 50 people could all shower at the same time in there. I got to shower in there by myself on several occasions. I don't have a specific story, but this was my father apparently when he was young. My grandmother told me how he would always go out with women twice his age. It was such a regular thing, I guess, that after dates she'd just go. So how old is she this time? Many years later, and after my mother's passing, ironically she was only 3 years older than him. He's still doing it. He's in his 50s and his lower limit is the 70s. And he ain't messing with no broke to broke either. My mom, who works as a massage therapist, told me her boss, 42 at her spa, thought I 19 at the time, was hot when my mom showed her pictures of me. Ended up getting an ad on Facebook from her, and she told me to come down to the downtown spa where she worked at during her lunch break. Got an hour massage, crazy 6 on the table, $50 and a chipotle burrito. I did once visit a guy who had a sugar mama, a friend of the girl I was dating at the time. He was this average looking 20-year-old stoner kid who was living in a nice house in the city. His sugar mama was paying for him to go to community college. Ex constantly bought me food and would give me money if I wanted beer or weed, but would then leave the beer and weed knowing I would drink or smoke it all. She only ever came to my apartment for 6 and would then leave when I couldn't get it up again. Her mom would drop off 3 to 4 bags of groceries every week. She bought me my second car ever and paid for my college classes and helped me get my life on track. Really, it ended pretty quick when I told her I thought I was in love with her. I was seeing her for about 2 months. She was 10 years my senior. We worked together and there was always those certain looks throughout the year. She was going through a divorce with well-to-do architect and were previously bonded over depressive situations we were going through. It wasn't until I handed my resignation in and told the staff I was moving states did it kick off. She said we should go get a drink one night. Nothing happened. Then she invited me round to her place. 3 awesome kids. Anything I wanted booze wise. Food. Great cook. Meals. And drinks out too. Very in shape and we absolutely bonded very well in the bedroom too. It was almost perfect. Except for me having sneak out at the crack of dawn before the kids woke up. This continued for about 7 weeks. I had my car packed and ready to go, and we spent one last night together before I moved. We said our goodbyes, and I drove off. Last I've heard from her as per the arrangement / her request. It could have worked out, I felt. Miss Yap, NX. Went out drinking with my cousin on a Thursday night and we ended up meeting a MILF at the bar he'd hooked up with before. It's closing time, and he invites me over to her place. To keep the party going I was supposed to stay at his place, so I didn't really have anywhere else to go. At the end of the night, she made me a bed in her guest room. I woke up the next morning with a terrible hangover and people are rushing around, and I'm like, WTF is all this noise? I emerge from the bedroom, and sitting at the kitchen table is my cousin, the MILF, and her 2 high school aged kids. Mind you, I'm 22 at the time and my cousin is 23. MILF packed us lunches while she made her kids lunches and sent us off with brown paper bags and Gatorades. The kids were less shocked than I was. I think they were used to it. Edit, she was divorced and lived in a massive house. I was at a dive bar and this lady comes in, wearing yoga pants and a tank / sports bra. It was a Tuesday night. She was beautiful. Looked like a hot suburban mom, early mid-40s. Had no idea what she was doing there. We got to chatting, and it turns out she was in the middle of a divorce and had been moving out of their house all day. We exchange numbers and I go to her house later that night. Door opens and it's on without introduction. Through the night and later the next day, she keeps making comments about how she can't believe she's with such a younger guy. I look young for my age, so I assume that she misunderstands and I say, you keep saying that. I don't think I'm as young as you think, and she asked how old I was. I told her 33, and she said that's what she thought. She was 55. I was totally shocked, but also thought it was pretty cool. Over the next year, we had an ongoing relationship. She never cared or got jealous about who I was dating or seeing. We would even talk about sex with other people while we made love, which was pretty hot. Because neither of us were possessive, and it was about mutual enjoyment. She was very adventurous sexually, and I felt I could open up about anything. and be truly open with her, without judgment. We would go out to restaurants and she would always pay. She paid for us to take one small trip for a week together out of town, which was awesome. She always talked about how she had an older man set her up in business when she was young, and how she'd like to do the same for me. And we would talk about plans for what that would look like. She even suggested I move into her spare bedroom and be roommates, saying she wouldn't be jealous if I brought a girl home. I thought that was a bit too complicated and would work only in theory, so I respectfully declined. I moved off and she found someone her own age, and we talk less and less all the time, but I keep her updated on my life. I think of her fondly and often, and tell her I love her. I consider her a very special woman to me, and she still inspires me. A while back I posted in a couple subreddits here for meetups, and a woman actually messaged me. We connected pretty well, and found out her job took her around the US. She also was in a poly relationship, and just liked having guy friends everywhere, so I just became another one of her boyfriends. When we started talking it was about 2 to 3 weeks away from my birthday, and I had told her it was coming up soon. She wanted to get me something for it, but I had felt uncomfortable telling her my address. Finally she convinced me, and about a week later, she sent me an incredible care package. It was 2 brand new games, a new hoodie, some comics, and a Funko Pop. It was a lot to spend on me, even though we hadn't known each other that well. Not exactly a sugar mama, but I have a second Tinder account with my age set to 40. In the bio I just straight up say I'm actually 23 and looking to have sex with older women. It has worked a surprising number of times with some very attractive MILFs and cougars. My time has come. I met an older MILF when I was 27, she was 43, and I think it was really more of a boy toy situation, though we were still friends. She would basically take me all around the state on her trips as a sales rep when I had the days off from my own job, and we'd stay at hotels and just duck half the night. Then we'd wake up, duck again, and be on our way. It lasted for just over a year, and honestly, I was just so spoiled by her in terms of sex. She loved to duck out in nature, and before it ended, we had ducked in 3 national parks. We even had a thing where we'd impersonate the count with 2 national parks. RRR, and then laugh like idiots. 6 or so years ago I was just out of college in Southern California, living with my grandpa, and asked out a Chinese grad student after meeting her at work. On our second date, she picked me up in a shiny black Audi, said her parents leased it for her. We went to a Chinese restaurant. I had paid for food on our first date and just assumed I would keep on doing so, despite making $15 hour at the time, because I'm a red-blooded Korean American man. So when she started ordering lobster, duck, and enough food to feed 8, I started getting a bit nervous. The check came, and I reached for it, but she snatched it away, got out her wallet, and pulled out 3 Benjamins, like it was nothing. And when she did that, I couldn't help but catch a glimpse of the stack of crisp bills, all which seemed to have a similar pattern, W/Benjamin Franklin's bald head peeking out the top. She had to have had at least 2 G's in there. I don't like going to the bank, so I just get it all at once, she said. I had way less in my name than she had in her wallet, LMAO. Anyway, she paid for the $200 plus meal and let me have the leftovers. Had my meals set for the next week. From then on we alternated paying for dates. My meals would be $or $$ on Yelp. Hers $$ plus. She eventually would pay for Disneyland tickets, lacquer games, and some fantastic meals before 5 months later she graduated, her student visa expired, and she went back to China. She was really down to earth too. Once we went to a spot near downtown, and she street parked in Skid Row. I advised against it, motioning to the homeless encampments, but she said it was no big deal. Chill. Her English was good enough to hold conversation, but once we were lying in bed, and it was kind of a lull, and she said out of the blue, "I'm funnier in Chinese," which I thought was hilarious, but also sad. Maybe because of that, we didn't text much outside of planning our weekends. I sometimes wondered whether she had 2 or 3 boyfriends she was just cycling through lol. She didn't have Facebook, only Weibo, or some other Chinese social media. I texted her a few years ago, but the normally blue bubbles were now gray still. We had a lot of fun, and she helped get me through those post-grad broke ass blues. Hope she's doing alright.